Hi, I'm Kelly with CitrusCycles.ca. I'm super excited to be here in Germany with the Riesenmüller Delite and SuperDelite. They are custom made right here in Germany. In this short video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the bikes and the new features for an in-depth video review, including detailed specs, current pricing, or to configure your own Delite, SuperDelite, or any other Riesenmüller e-bike. You can go to our website at CitrusCycles.ca. There you'll find our contact information, so you can reach out to us with any questions you might have, and set up an appointment if you want to come try test riding them in beautiful Ladysmith on Vancouver Island. So this is just a quick video overview and a ride test. I'll be posting an in-depth video including a ride test later on when we get the production bikes in our store. So the Delite and SuperDelite use Bosch's new Gen 4 CX drive unit. That's Bosch's highest torque motor with 75 Newton meters of torque, just like the previous generation, but the new generation has a number of differences. As you can see, it's quite a bit smaller. It's actually 50% smaller. It is over there. Very compact, really nicely integrated into the frame here. On this side of the bike, you can't even tell it's an e-bike. It's 25% lighter. We do get more support, so whereas previous generation was 300%, now in turbo you get 340% support, and of course the other levels increase the support a little bit as well. They've also updated the EMTB mode. By going with the CX drive, not only are you getting the higher torque, but you're getting this really clever mode that Bosch originally designed for mountain bikes. It's great on any bike. Basically, it automatically adjusts the assistance based on your needs. It's figuring out what you're doing, figuring out, if you're pedaling lightly through a tricky section of terrain, it's going to give you less power. Pedaling really hard to make up a hill, it's going to give you full power. So it's a nice feature that has been further enhanced to be even more adaptive and more responsive with this new Gen 4 motor. The other big change with this new drive unit is that there is essentially no resistance once you exceed the maximum cutoff speed of 32 kilometers an hour, or if you ride with the assistance off. So in the past there was a gear reduction mechanism inside that allowed Bosch to use a much smaller chainring. They've gone away from that. It's a full-size regular chainring, or in the case of the Delite roll-off or Vario, the belt. And what that allows them to do is that essentially there's no drag or resistance when you do exceed that 32 kilometers an hour or decide to ride with the assistance off. So the SuperDelite here actually has two Power 2 batteries integrated into the frame. They are removable. They've got a beautiful way of integrating the battery into the bike with this protective cover here. You can kind of see and peek the battery is under there and here as well. And there's a key here, of course, to remove it. So with the SuperDelite, we actually have dual 500 watt-hour batteries. So they didn't go with the 635 watt-hour battery. It is a much longer battery from Bosch. Would have made it difficult with this frame design. Especially with this new frame design, one of the interesting things is with the smaller motor and the integrated batteries, have actually been able to reduce the standover height. So the smaller version of the Delite is actually quite a bit smaller than the previous version. If we go over here to the Delite, you can see that it is a single 500 watt-hour battery with the top tube clear. Now, one of the highlights of the Delite, of course, is Riesenmüller's control technology. That means that they use a front suspension fork, which isn't unusual. You'll see that on a lot of e-bikes. That definitely helps to improve the comfort and control over the bike, because when you're going over bumps or rough pavement, not only is it absorbing the bumps, but it's helping you to control the bike a little better. That applies to the rear shock as well. So this is perhaps a little bit less usual. We do have a rear shock with an independent swing arm here. That means that it is isolating you from the bumps, rougher terrain. You're going to be a lot more comfortable. It's going to reduce fatigue, so it's going to make you be able to go on longer rides without getting tired, because a lot of times it's not so much the pedaling that tires you out, but the fatigue, upper body fatigue, just from controlling the bike and going over bumps and rough terrain. That's going to be reduced, help you to go on longer rides, especially with the dual batteries. The other thing, though, that this control technology does for you is because the rear swing arm here is connected to the shock. When you go over bumps or rough pavement or around corners or any situation where with a hardtail your tire might come off the ground, this is actually keeping your tire on the ground all the time. So both the front and the rear wheel are essentially glued to the ground, gives you much more increase in stability. It's really quite impressive. You have to come try it if you can. An easy way to demonstrate it that I can't do here at the show, of course, is if I pick up a bike without this control technology and drop it, the rear tire is going to bounce. When I do the same thing with this bike with the control technology, as soon as I drop it, the wheel stays on the ground. And again, that's a good example of how it gives you increased stability, and that's one of the hallmarks of the Delite, is using Riesenmüller's control technology. Carried forward to this year, we have the option of the Sun Tour suspension, and you can also upgrade to the Fox, which is a really great option to consider. So for the SuperDelite, we have two color options. We have this warm silver matte. It's quite a lovely color if you're looking for something that is refined and sophisticated, will kind of help you blend in. It's a nice option. And just behind it here we have the Tundra Gray Matte. It's a bit of a greenish tinge to it. Really nice striking bike. I took some photos of it out in the forest when I was test riding it, and it really blended well. So I think it's a really nice option. Of course, you can get the SuperDelite Mountain in both of these colors as well. So I think I'm going to go with that color for the SuperDelite Mountain. I think it'll blend really well in the forest. So the Delite, that is the one with the single 500 watt-hour battery instead of dual batteries, is available in this red. I'm trying to think of the technical. Here we go. Chili matte is the color of that one. And then behind there we do have more of a gray color. Pop around the other side and show you that one. So this is the Urban Gray Matte. Also nice subtle color, but I gotta love that chili red in behind there. Nice and bright, beautiful looking. And I love those matte colors. And here again is that Urban Gray Matte. Of course, the bikes are available in 3 different sizes, and as I mentioned, you can see the, especially with the Delite here, the smaller size is quite a bit smaller than previous years. So we have a new option for this year that I'm really excited about. On all of the Delite, you can actually opt for the GX option. The GX option is going to give you the knobbier Rock Razor tire here. It's a nice tire with these big knobs on the side for control and cornering, and when you get into really difficult terrain, loose gravel, that sort of thing. Yet in the middle here we've got these smaller knobs a little bit closer together, so there isn't a huge increase in the rolling resistance. So those are the Rock Razor. They've got a good degree of puncture resistance, but the GX option gives you a lot more than the tire. I'm actually really excited about it. It gives you a dropper post. Now this is something that once you get, you can't go back to not having. If you ride a mountain bike like I do, the dropper post was originally designed to help, you basically press a lever over here, and when you put your weight on the saddle while you press the lever, the saddle lowers itself. That allows you to get your center of gravity much lower to the ground, gives you more stability when you're descending a steep hill. And of course, when you are done and you're back on flat ground or climbing a hill, you press the lever again, and that allows you the seat to go up. Of course, with the dropper post, you can control exactly the height that you want. Why would you want that if you're not mountain biking? Well, any time you want to have your center of gravity lower, this is a great option. And honestly, I don't want to say that I'm lazy, but one of the really cool things I love about the dropper post is when I get to a stop sign, I just drop it and I don't have to get off my saddle. Because obviously I want my saddle high enough that I have a good leg extension, and that means generally you can't stay on your saddle and stop and be stable. So with that dropper post option, you can actually just drop that right down and be super stable. While I'm up here, I should mention we've got the Ergon SMC4L when you go with the GX option, whereas we've got the Selle Royale, there we go, when you don't have that GX. So we're upgrading the saddle, we're getting a dropper post, we're getting knobby tires, we're also, and this is again super exciting to me, you're getting 140 millimeters of travel on the suspension fork instead of the 100 or 120 millimeters when you don't have that GX option. I think they actually rate it at 100, so to move up to 140, it's pretty awesome. Here's the example with the Fox. You can get, if you stick with the Sun Tour suspension and get the GX option, you're still going to get the 140 millimeters of travel. You just get it with the Sun Tour fork instead. So it's very exciting, really nice option. The other option that gets upgraded when you go with the GX is we've got these pedals here, the BP series pedals with the knobs here to keep your foot on when you're in rain or wet situations, and it's a much wider pedal. I'll just bring you over here to the standard pedal to show you the upgrade option. So this is the standard pedal that would come with a bike. I don't love that pedal. It's something I've always changed. In fact, I've always changed mine similar to that one on the GX option. So certainly the GX option is a great consideration. You get the knobby tire, you get the upgraded pedals, you get the dropper post, and the increase in suspension. Ideal if you're doing any sort of off-road riding, but you might like it even if you're not doing off-road. So we also have lots of options for the rack. We've got the standard rack here. This is a high capacity rack. You can put a trunk bag on it. It's actually MIK compatible, so you can just slide on an MIK adapter or bags or a trunk bag on there. Really quite clever. This rack is actually fully suspended because it's attached to the seat tube here. It takes advantage of your suspension. So, you know, if you put your groceries on there, you got some eggs in there, you're going over big bumps. This is actually isolating the eggs from the bumps, so to speak, and so it is part of the suspension. Higher capacity, we've got these cool wings here, and to block your bags from hitting the spokes. Definitely, I recommend this rack. I really enjoy using it. But if you're looking for something really low profile, they've got this new option here that basically attaches the rack to the fender here. So this is very low capacity. We're looking at 5 kilos on each side. Obviously no room for a trunk bag, but it looks really sleek, doesn't it? Maybe you're looking for something that's a little bit easier to get on and off the back. Certainly this rack here, you can see comes quite a bit higher than the rear fender, whereas this one, well, it's lower than the rear fender. So if you're wanting something that's easy to get on and off, or just that really sleek look, you don't need the high capacity. You can go with the pannier option, about 5 kilos on those. Speaking of bags and options, if you go with this and then you decide you need a little bit more room and you don't have that trunk bag, you can actually configure the bike with a front rack here. This has a 5 kilo capacity as well. Super secure though, because it's actually mounted to the head tube here, 4 different places. What that means is when you steer, the rack isn't going to move. It means you can put more weight on here and it's not going to negatively impact on the handling of the bike, and that's really nice because if the rack were to move around as you steer, it could throw off the balance on the bike, and that would be a bit difficult for riding. So you know, they're rated at 5 kilos. It's a very, very heavy-duty rack. There's even points through here for straps. We've got mounting points under here as well. There we go. So lots of cool options with the rack. And if you go with the rack, you can still put the water bottles. So you'll notice that even without the rack, there's some mounting points there for water bottles that come with the bike. They're a company called Fabric makes them. It's a cageless water bottle, just clicks right in onto the side there. One of my favorite features of the bike, actually. So we have 3 different display options. We can go with the standard Intuvia display, and if you do that, you just get a regular stem. I don't have one here to show you. See if I can track one down later. But if you go with the upgraded options, either the smartphone hub here or the kiosk display over there, then you get this really cool cockpit with an adjustable stem. So very sturdy. We can adjust the angle on that. If you want to get it a little bit more upright, you can do that. And the cool thing about this, what they're calling the cockpit, is they've run all the wires, so you can see they're kind of really neatly run down through the stem here, really cleaning up the front. Of course, the front brake still has to go to the front brake, the hose there, but everything else runs through there, which is really very attractive. We pop over to the kiosk display to show you what that one looks like. So this is Bosch's kiosk display. We've got an in-depth video review of it on our website. You can see that it's magnetically mounted, it's Gorilla Glass, Bluetooth enabled color, really nice display. And again, we've got this adjustability here on the adjustable stem, and we've got the wires running through the bottom there. The smartphone hub, bring it back over to here, is new from Bosch this year. It actually allows you to, it's not included on the display here, but there's actually a case or a holder that goes to hold your phone on here, and then you pair your phone through Bluetooth to the smartphone hub, and that allows you to use your phone to control the bike and the bike controls to control your phone, and I'm going to have an in-depth video review of that in a little while. It's based on the Kobe app, which is really quite cool. One of the cool things about the smartphone hub is that even without your smartphone on, the display actually works. So it's showing our current speed, showing a level of assistance, which I can adjust, and also showing me my range and whether or not my lights are on, your battery percentage as well. So, and of course your current speed, all the information you want to see while you're riding your bike if you don't have the phone on there. Of course, when you put your phone on here, pair it with your bike, you can see a lot more information, your wattage, cadence, all sorts of information, and it's a really nice upgrade. It is only available with the Touring and the Vario version. With the roll-off, you have to go with the Kiox or the Intuvia because the roll-off doesn't support, the Kobe software that works with the smartphone hub doesn't support eShift. So speaking of the different drivetrain options, there are 3 drivetrain options, and that's kind of what defines the models. So we've got the Delite or SuperDelite Touring. Gives you a traditional chain, cassette, and derailleur. It's a Shimano Dior XT with a one-way clutch there. We've moved up to a 46-tooth cassette from a 42 in the past, so much wider gear ratio, great for climbing really steep hills, and of course with the XT there, it's a very snappy, very responsive shifting system. Another option for the Delite is the Vario. That gives you the Enviolo continuously variable transmission and a Gates carbon fiber belt. I love having the Gates carbon belt because this is essentially maintenance free. Unlike a chain, I don't have to oil it, clean it, maintain it. I ride a lot in the rain. I ride every day all year. If it's raining, it doesn't bother me. I've got the right gear. When I get home, I don't have to worry about cleaning and oiling my chain or feeling guilty that I didn't. So that Gates carbon belt also lasts significantly longer than a chain, which is really nice, and again, very maintenance free. With that continuously variable transmission, got some video reviews, detailed reviews of this on our website, but basically this allows you to shift while you're stopped, which is really quite clever. You can shift while you're pedaling, and instead of a specific number of gears, it's infinitely variable between the highest and the lowest. Super intuitive. We've got this little controller up here, so you can see if I want to make it, so I can not have my finger in there, sorry about that. If I want to make it so that it's harder to pedal, I just make it flatter like that. And if I want to make it easier to pedal, I just twist it this way, and you see how they're going up a hill now. I apologize for the focus on the camera here. It's one of the disadvantages of trying to do this at Eurobike here, but I was really excited about this bike and wanted to make sure you could see it. So I can do that while I'm stopped, and that basically allows me to make it easier or harder to pedal. The other great thing about the Enviolo system, it is a completely sealed hub, so there's nothing on the outside that's going to get damaged. With your regular chain, cassette, and derailleur, you do want to watch out that the derailleur doesn't get banged, the derailleur hanger. You're going to have to make adjustments from time to time. The cable's going to stretch. This, generally, you don't have to make any adjustments. It's completely sealed, so there's no maintenance. You're not going to have to replace this like you are with the cassette, chain, and derailleur. These are wear items. Your chain is a wear item, the cassette is a wear item, the derailleur is a wear item. Those are going to add up over time. You're going to have to replace all those. With that Enviolo hub, there's nothing to replace. It's completely sealed and maintenance free. So your other choice for the transmission is the roll-off. It's an internally geared hub with 14 speeds and electronic shifting. You can shift while you're stopped and while you're pedaling. With 14 gears, it has a massive 520% gear ratio, essentially maintenance-free. You just have to change the oil once a year. These things last forever. They now have roll-offs with over 300,000 kilometers on them. Of course, we've got the Gates carbon belt here. In order for the belt to work with the rear suspension, they've got this really clever pulley system with a snubber and a spring system here. What that does is it keeps the tension on the belt consistent even if your suspension is moving through its full travel. Very clever system, and of course what you'd expect with the German engineering, they really pay attention to those details and come up with the best possible solution. So I love having the roll-off with the eShift, that wide gear ratio, being able to shift while you're stopped, and of course virtually maintenance free. But you've got the choice. You can go with the Touring, the Vario, or the roll-off. As I mentioned, we will have an in-depth detailed review and including a ride test on our website, but to finish up the quick overview here, I will mention we've got the Supernova M99 Mini, super bright light. It's got a high beam with 1250 lumens, a low beam setting as well. We have the option of an ABUS folding alarm lock. They've moved it from the rear rack option like they had in the past to now being mounted, I believe, under the top tube here, or you can mount it down here on the down tube. We've got the Supernova rear lights as well, which actually have brake lights, so when you pull the brake levers, they brighten, which is really cool. They're visible at almost a kilometer. There's a couple other upgrades I'm really excited about. We've got the Magura MT5 dual piston brakes up front with a fairly large rotor. Let's see if I can get you closer to the brake there. There we go. As you can see, well, I guess quad pistons. There's 2 pistons on each side. So hopefully that's been helpful to give you an idea of the bikes. Like I said, we'll have an in-depth review available on our website at citruscycles.ca. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. All right, so I'm actually riding the speed pedelec version of the Delite roll-off. It's got the GX option, which gives me the dropper post, the knobby tires, the bar ends, and the really nice pedals. It's a great upgrade, definitely something I'm going to get for my Delite. I do ride a Delite. Now this is actually the Delite with a single battery. Myself, I like to go on longer rides, so I'll be getting a SuperDelite, which gives me the dual power tube batteries. Of course, they both have the new Bosch CX drive. Now the speed pedelec version is of course not legal in Canada. But this is nice because I can get up to 32 kilometers an hour, whereas the rest of the Euro spec bikes I'm limited to 25 kilometers an hour. So this is a lot of fun. Of course, in Canada, the legal limit is 32 kilometers an hour. The motor does need to cut out after that. Now, speaking of the motor cutting out, I'm just going to drop the power off, ride like a regular bike. And with that new drive unit from Bosch, I'm noticing that there's really no resistance at all, which is nice. This particular bike also has the kiosk display with the cockpit, which is really cool. The wires are kind of run through there, nice and clean, and we've got an adjustable angle, which can be really handy as well. Get yourself fairly upright if you wish. These are nice wide bars. With the GX option here, we've got the bar ends, which is nice, gives you another riding position. And of course, you've got the dropper post. Nice textured lever there, good position. Nice smooth dropper. It's really nice, actually. And you know, the dropper post is something that you may not have, especially, you know, it's usually reserved for mountain bikes. But since I've got one on my mountain bike, it's really hard to go back to not having one. You know, even if I'm being lazy and I just want to drop it when I stop and not have to get off the saddle, I can do that. But of course, ideally, it's designed for you know, when you're on rougher sections of a trail and you're going downhill, you can lower your center of gravity and give you a little bit more stability. All right, we've got a bit of a gravel path here. These are Rock Razor tires. It'll handle it really well. Just check out the brakes here. Lots of modulation, lots of stopping power. That's the MT5 on the front there, with the MT4 out back. Lots of stopping power. I usually try to do quite a number of hours of test riding before I do a video, just to kind of familiarize myself with the bike. Of course, I can't do that at Eurobike here, so I'm not quite familiar with the trails. I'm just going to go down a few trails here to see where they go. The Delite, of course, handles really well on these kind of forestry roads. Nice, smooth ride. We've got the GX option. This gives me 140 millimeters of travel. So I'm really very comfortable. Lots of control, lots of traction here. Really is a bike that's made for riding long distances. I do have a bit of a squeak in the front end there. I think it's a pre-production bike that a lot of people have ridden here at Eurobike to test it out. So I just need to make a quick adjustment in the front there to get it to stop squeaking. Certainly the production bikes won't have that problem. It's interesting, especially on the gravel here, that motor is very quiet. Especially on the Delite frame here, I'm not hearing a lot of noise from it, even when I'm pedaling pretty hard. Again, great stopping power, which is nice. great riding position. I'm really enjoying it. You know, the Delite is a fantastic bike. It's the bike you can ride all day, being very comfortable. The riding position with the control technology. Starting to get used to this front rack. Didn't take me long. At first it's a bit disconcerting because when you steer, the rack doesn't move, of course, because it's mounted to the head tube. That's a good thing if you put a lot of weight on there. Now, ideally you only want 5 kilos. When you've got that 5 kilos on there, you know, it's not going to impact on the handling of the bike. It's not going to impact on your steering. And yes, I'm not 100% sure if it's something that I'll be putting on my own bike. It's kind of handy to have. And it doesn't interfere with the water bottle option, so you can still put those fantastic water bottles on right up at the front here, which is really easy to get to right up there. One of my favorite features of the bike is those water bottles. So I'm not sure if I'm off the test track here or not. I do see some other people riding around, but I might need to head back, see if I can find some more gravel paths to ride down. Nice thing with these GX tires and the full suspension is you can kind of go off-roading whenever you wish. If you see somewhere you haven't been and are curious, you can head over that way, and it's really just a lot of fun having a bike that's this versatile. It's interesting, I was curious with the new Gen 4 of the Bosch drive here. This is the CX, so lots of torque. With going with the full-size chainring, or in the case of this bike, a belt, is that going to affect the responsiveness? In other words, as soon as I give power to the crank arms, am I going to get the power right away? And just a little bit of experimenting with here, the answer would be yes. There's really no delay in power delivery. And by the same token, as soon as I stop pedaling, the motor stops right away. So it is very responsive. Head out onto the mountain bike track here. Obviously this is a very mountain capable bike. In fact, they make a Delite called the Delite or SuperDelite mountain specifically for mountain biking. A little bit more of a forward riding position with shorter stem. 150 millimeters of travel, which is the 140 with the GX option here. And of course 2.4 or 2.8 inch wide 27.5 plus size tires, but otherwise it's the same frame, a lot of same components. So really there's no reason why you couldn't do some mountain biking with this bike. Certainly with my Delite, I do a fair bit of that. Now for me, I would probably upgrade to the Fox suspension. The one I'm riding right now has the Sun Tour, which is very capable, but if you are doing a lot of off-road types of riding, then certainly going with something with the Fox is a nice option, or going with the mountain bike specific version. It's certainly very capable. And that's the great thing about this bike, is it's incredibly versatile. You can really do anything you want with it, and it's going to handle it no problem. Well, that was a lot of fun. For all the details on the bike and in-depth video review, including a ride test, head over to our website at citricycles.ca.